Thank you, and thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon for our now 7th public stakeholder meeting working on the electronic visit verification system. And just to kind of give a little recap for those of you who may not have been participating all along, we began having stakeholder meetings fall of 2018, right? Is that about right? And this is now our 7th. We began this in response to the new federal requirement that all personal care service workers and home health workers are going to be required to use an electronic visit verification system. The personal care services workers were to begin January of 2019 in the original legislation, and that since has been changed to January of 2020. And for the home health folks, it was 2023, and now is 2024. The first phase of this in California is for the personal care workers in both the in-home supportive services program and the waiver personal care services program. And with the 2020 date, there also is the opportunity for the state to request a 1-year good faith extension, which California will be doing and submitting between July and November of this year, so that we would actually have until January 1st, 2021 to complete our rollout of the electronic visit verification. Through our discussions with the stakeholders, we have really listened to people's concerns around things like utilizing GPS, the activity of having to check in and check out for individual services, and the privacy issues that people felt could be compromised through this kind of a system. And in conjunction with the stakeholders and their concerns and listening to them, the decision in California was that, one, we will not be using GPS, that is for purposes of determining location. That was a decision made and is not required by CMS, so the state will not be doing that. We will not be having people have to check in or check out in real time by service. And in doing both of those things, that seemed to make people feel much more comfortable around their privacy. And so hopefully this is an approach that really will honor those concerns of our individual recipients and providers. Additionally, there was a lot of feedback from our stakeholders around utilizing current systems to approach this rather than going out and doing something new. So we are building on our current electronic timesheets as an approach to doing this. We have done demos on both our online option. We did those last fall. Basically, it is utilizing the electronic timesheets in the portal that we have today and adding the 3 additional items that need to be collected as a requirement of the electronic visit verification. And last week, we demoed the telephone option for entering information. So the telephone option is not currently available for providers to enter. It will be rolled out as a part of the electronic visit verification implementation. But the online portal and electronic timesheets are currently something that many of our providers already are using and is available for any provider to use, any recipient to use. And recipients do currently have the ability to use a telephone approval option as well. Currently, the electronic timesheets do not collect the additional pieces of information. That will happen as a part of EVV implementation. So the new items that are being collected as required by electronic visit verification as we move into that implementation are a start time, an end time, and location. So again, in response to feedback from stakeholder conversations, we came up with an approach to that to try and simplify it and make it as least cumbersome for people as possible. So the start time is the first IHSS or WPCS service is provided that day, and the end time is the last time an IHSS or WPCS service is provided that day, depending on which program you're doing the service for. This is to prevent people from having to have multiple entries of start times and end times during a single day, because we know that many of our providers provide services to recipients periodically throughout the day. They don't just have a single start or end time. For location, it will be 3 options. Can you guys still hear me? The feedback went away, right? Okay, good. So the 3 options for location include that it's in the home, which means it was provided in the location where the recipient resides. The community, which is any other location aside from the recipient's home, or both. And that would be selected. Those 3 items would be selected each day along with the number of hours of service that are provided that day. One thing that I'm going to talk about for a second, because I know it's confusing, we chose to do the start and end time with the first service and the last service of the day to prevent having to do multiple entries. But what that means is that the start time and the end time, the number of hours between the start time and the end time, is not necessarily the same as the number of hours worked. So I may have done my first service at 9 in the morning, I may have done my last service at 9 at night, and the total number of hours I worked may be 4. Okay, so those 2 things are not required to equal one another. The start time and the end time are requirements of EVV that we need to be able to report on to the feds. But what we utilize for payment is we utilize the number of hours worked, which is the same thing as the same way it works today. So the number of hours worked on a paper timesheet, on an electronic timesheet, in the new telephone system is what will be utilized to do the pay to the provider. Okay. The start time, the end time, and the location are new elements that we're required to report on. So I just wanted to make that clarification for folks. So we've been really happy with having the opportunity to share with folks the tools as they are designed thus far. We've gotten overall very positive feedback. We still are out doing a number of focus groups statewide with recipients and providers on the telephone tool, as we did with the online one earlier in the fall. And both of those prototypes should be ready for our pilot, which is scheduled to begin this coming July. Today, we're here to talk about kind of our initial implementation strategy concept and to hear stakeholder input and feedback on that. So before I move into that for today, is there any question about kind of the recap and where we're at with EVV at this point? On the phone, operator, is there anyone that has a question on that topic?
Thank you. Again, if there are any questions at this time, you may press 1, then 0. And we do have a question in queue. It comes from the line of Donna Fields. Please go ahead.
Hi. Would you please just explain a little bit better for me, like the start and in location? I have someone that comes. I'm a consumer. I have someone that comes at 9 in the morning, and then she leaves about 1 o'clock, and that's the only one. I'm the only one that she has at this time. So how would we? Do we have to do that each day that she comes?
Yes. So when she inputs her information into either the electronic timesheet through the portal or through the telephone system, for each day, she would be entering the number of hours that she worked that day, the time she started and the time she ended, and the location where she provided the service. So yes, for each day, she would have a start time, an end time, and a location.
Okay, each day she has to put it in. Okay, so that's what I wanted to know. Thank you. So you said there were three. So what are the three? There's one is the start and end and location. Is that it?
Right. So one is start time, the second is end time, and the third is the location.
Okay. And is there anything else that's going to be added to the timesheets?
There's nothing else new. It's all what they currently are doing. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Of course. Mm-hmm.
No other phone questions at this time.
Okay. So now we're going to talk about the concept for implementation. So as we were just saying, the time frame that we need to complete this by in order to avoid any kind of federal financial penalty, assuming that we get an approved good faith effort, we will be able to, we're looking at beginning this July and having an 18-month period through the end of December 2020 to implement. It's really important to us that the implementation is done with enough support and training and guidance to our recipients and providers. So we wanted to have a lengthy period of time. We wanted to have that 18-month period. We didn't want to wait till December 31st, 2020 and turn everybody on and require everyone to do something brand new. We wanted to roll this out in a way that allows people to get the support and training that they need to be successful in this transition. So the first 6 months between July and December will be a pilot period, followed by the remaining 12 months, the next year, so the year of 2020, we will do 6 waves. Each wave will have a group of counties, both recipients and providers, that are going to implement. So we'll have the pilot period and then 6 waves that are 2 months each. Okay. How the 2-month periods will be set up following the pilot period is that whatever group of counties is in that 2-month period, the first month we will be bringing up the recipients and providers that are in those counties who are already using the portal and electronic timesheets. We will implement them in the first month. And then the second month, we would bring up the remaining folks who were beginning new, either choosing the telephone or going online, but that they hadn't been doing the portal or electronic timesheets prior. The reason that we're thinking of that as a strategy is because the individuals who are already using the portal will have very minimal change during this time. The way they use the portal, how they get to their timesheet will not change at all. What will change for them is that when they open their timesheet in the portal, it will have the 3 additional columns for them to complete. So it will have the same column it has today with the number of hours worked each day, and then it will also have the 3 additional columns that we just talked about, a start time, an end time, and a location. So they would fill those out as a part of entering their timesheet. That would be the only change for them as the provider. And for the recipient who approves their time, the only change would be that when they got their timesheet to approve, they would be able to if they were in the portal, they would be able to view that information, that additional information. And if they were using the telephone, they would have the option to hear that additional information. So for recipients and providers who are already using those electronic timesheet systems, there would be very minimal change for them. One of the questions that we've heard is what would happen if they forgot or didn't fill out one of those new pieces of information as they were completing their timesheet. If that happened, the system would stop them and require them to enter it. So they would have to enter it as a part of being able to complete their timesheet. So they wouldn't be able to forget or not do something that they needed to do. So the system would assist them in that way. The system would continue to have all of the same reminders, prompts, information, all of the same functionality that it does today. And for those of you who were attending the telephone option last week, it would have all of the same kinds of functionality as well. That demo from last week will also be posted on our website. So if someone didn't see it and would like to, it will be available there to view. Okay. So that would be the first month of folks, bringing those individuals up. The second month would be bringing up the remainder of folks who were either needing to begin utilizing the portal and electronic online timesheets, or were choosing to use the telephone option. Just a reminder that recipients and providers can choose whichever one works for them. It doesn't matter if I, as the provider, am using online and my recipient wants to use the phone is fine, or if we're both going to use online, or the reverse. So it's specific to that individual. They have the absolute choice on which works best for them. And if they decide they want to change, they can change. So there's a lot of flexibility there in whatever works for the individual as far as the tools. And remember, any device where someone can get online can be utilized for the online option. Cell phones can be utilized, or landlines can be utilized for the telephone option. So we really tried to make it as flexible so people would have a lot of choice for what worked for them. Okay. So going back to the implementation piece, kind of told you which groups we were looking at bringing up during the 2-month period, kind of dividing it between those already using the portal and those that were not using any type of system. And prior to people going live, our concept is very similar to what we did with electronic timesheets, where we do some notices. We're looking, and I believe notices have gone out to a lot of the stakeholders already for you to start giving us feedback and comment on those. And please, we're looking forward to hearing any feedback on that. So about 2 months before a group, so each wave, we would be sending the first notice that would inform the recipients and providers in any county that was a part of that group, letting them know that EVV was going to be beginning in their county and giving them that time frame when it was going to begin, and also letting them know if they wanted to enroll in the portal early, giving them the information about how to get on the portal, how to get online for recipients, the option to also use the telephone for approvals. So that would go out a couple of months before. And then about a month before, there would be a second mailing. There would be 2 types of mailings. There would be one mailing that would go to the group of recipients and providers who were already using the portal services and electronic timesheets. That would explain to them what I was just explaining to you, that for them, they would continue doing things as they do today, with the addition of adding the 3 pieces of information into the timesheet when they completed the timesheet. But their process, how they get into the portal, how they access the electronic timesheets, there wouldn't be any change to that. So they would be getting a letter that was informing them of that. For the other folks, they would be getting a letter that was telling them that paper timesheets were no longer going to be being utilized in the IHSS program, and that they would need to select either an online option or a telephone option to report for their provider to report their time and for the recipient to approve it, and giving them information about how to either enroll online or how to enroll via the telephone. Okay. We also would be operating the same help desk we have today for electronic timesheets, statewide help desk. That is going to be significantly expanded to be able to support all recipients and providers. So we will be expanding that, and they assist recipients and providers with any technical assistance they may need in order to utilize one of the systems, including helping them enroll into one of those systems. We also will be similar to what we did with the rollout of electronic timesheets, doing webinars available for recipients and providers to see demos online. We would start those for recipients and providers probably a couple of weeks before their county goes live, moving into the go live period, doing them multiple times a week. And they will also be done as webcasts that will be on our website so that people could view them at any time to assist that way. State staff will also be out in the counties as they implement to support recipients and providers and the county staff in their activities to assist recipients and providers with the transition. And then county staff also will be providing direction and assistance of where to go to understand what to do, and some of the assistance that may be for individuals who need a more intensive level of assistance with enrolling or getting on the system. I also am going to mention that we are aware of the fact that there are probably some of our recipients and providers that do live in locations that they may not have connectivity or may have spotty connectivity. So as far as the spotty connectivity, one of the things that we hope will be helpful is that it is not required that when they begin or end the service in the day that they have to check in and check out immediately in real time. So it's not that you have to, at that particular time, be able to connect. For the recipient, it's once a pay period. At the end of the pay period, that they will either get a phone call if they're using the telephone option or have the option to call in if they so choose. So they have to have the telephone connectivity if they're using that system twice a month. And for providers, they also have flexibility in when they enter their time, either in the online system or the telephone option, as long as they can do it by the end of the pay period so their time can be submitted. And for those individuals who truly have absolutely no connectivity in the area that they live in, we'll be working with our counties to look at those on a case-by-case basis and ensure that we have an alternative to accommodate their needs. So we are going to be working on that as well. So that's kind of the approach that is our initial concept. Everything is not fully fleshed out. That's part of our work now, between now and July, as well as through our pilot period, to continue to make sure that we're giving all of the necessary tools and supports. We will be working with all of our partners that directly assist our recipients and providers, including our county partners, our public authorities, and both of our unions, to make sure that folks are comfortable and able to make a transition successfully, and that there's no concerns in ensuring that everyone is paid appropriately. I am going to talk a little bit about our pilot strategy now, unless anybody has questions at this point about kind of the concept once we're done with pilot. I'll certainly take many comments at the end, but if there's questions or clarification that you need on what I've said thus far, please feel free in the room. Okay, on the phone, operator.
We do have two questions. First from Paula Herman with Parent Provider. Please go ahead.
Hi, I have three questions. I'm going to make it quick. First of all, can we go back and forth from the phone to the computer? And the reason why I'm asking is I had this horrible fear of if my computer crashes, can I then do the phone? Do we have that choice back and forth, or if you sign up for the computer, then you have to use the computer?
You have, so let me answer that one. Yes, you can go back and forth.
Okay, good. Then the second question is, how long does it take for a provider to enter all this information on the phone?
Okay. So, and we talked about this some last week at the demo.
I wasn't there.
Okay. And I was just kind of going to go into the answer, yes. So we talked about it at the demo a little bit. So part of it depends on how the provider chooses to enter it. So there is a lot of prompts because they're entering information, and some of that goes fairly slowly. And we did that on purpose to make sure that we accommodated all of our providers. However, as providers get accustomed to entering that information, they don't have to listen through all of the prompts. They can just move forward like any automated phone system and punch in the information without having to listen through all of those prompts. So that makes how much time it takes vary. For each day, it probably takes a few minutes. What our recommendation is for providers is if they choose to utilize the telephone system, that they may want to enter their time more frequently rather than waiting to the end of the pay period, especially if they're working daily, because if they are working every day, and so they would have 14 days at the end of the pay period to enter, or 15 days, it could take a bit of time. Yeah, it could take a bit of time.
I looked at that and I went, oh, okay. So, all right, thanks. I got that answer. Then the third one is if I sign up, but the recipient does not, I'm still doing paper. So if I sign up and I don't sign my daughter up, then I can still get the paper until July?
People will, yes, you can still get paper until July.
Right.
And if you do choose to sign up, remember your recipient has the option to do online or by phone too. Even now, today, the recipient can choose the phone option as well, if that helps.
No, I want the paper. Okay. I like the paper. I'm addicted to the paper. I like paper trails. But I mean, I understand this, but I just want to know if I sign up. See, I'm going to have to go back in and sign my daughter up. She's on protective supervision. She's not going to be doing any of this.
Right.
I'm going to be doing both.
Right.
So I sign up and then just so I can check it out, and then I'll sign her up when I feel like it because I want the paper until July. That was what I mean. If I sign up, it doesn't switch me onto online, does it?
No.
I'll still get the paper, and then I want to see. The phone thing is going to be real tricky for us parents because I'm going to have, if I say my computer crashes, which I hope it doesn't, but say it does, and then I have to go in and do the provider, and then I have to go back in and do the recipient. And are they going to accept my voice as doing the recipient? Because my daughter is like not going to be able to do this.
So the phone is not going to do voice recognition. You're going to have a passcode.
Okay, and then my last question is, I just lost it, so I guess I'll let you go. It just went.
The other thing, Paula, and you mentioned that you're being addicted to paper, and one of the other concerns.
Well, I'm just used to it, you know.
No, I understand.
Oh, I know what the question was.
I understand. Before you go to that, I was just going to say, and we had talked about this some last week, is that we heard very clearly from stakeholders early on too that it was important that they wanted to be able to have records and paper records. So in the portal, you'll be able to print print things out if you want to have them for paper records. You also will be able to hear history on the phone. If you're using the phone option, you can still print out through the portal. On the phone, once you enter your timesheet, if you want a copy of that particular timesheet, you can, and you don't have a computer, you can request it be mailed. So we really did try and accommodate that concern for folks.
Okay, my last question is, if I log in at midnight, and then I log off at 11:59, and at night, I mean a 24-hour.
That's fine.
So I'm on call, and I want it to coincide with my, my little form that I filled out that I think should really be thrown away now, because, I'm either watching her or I'm on standby. It's one of the two.
No. We totally understand. We totally understand, and that again was something that we heard from recipients and providers, which is a part of why we have. And for people using 24-hour-a-day protective supervision that you're really on call for, it's midnight to 11:59 is fine for your start and end time, and then you just claim your hours as you do today.
Thanks.
Of course. Was there someone else, operator? I think you said there was two.
There is. Cindy Calderon with the Tri-County Independent.
Hi, thank you very much for taking questions right now and all of this. I have a question from one of our community members who is deaf, and I have listened to several of your webinars, Debbie, and I don't remember hearing about how that is going to be set up. Can you tell me or remind me, please?
So both systems are assigned, are created to do all of the accessibility criteria. I'm going to let Leora add to that a little more in detail.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I don't know if you can hear me. So the online portal is accessible, and so we would definitely suggest for ease of use, if somebody was deaf, that they would go the electronic option if that is at all possible. And then from the phone side, we are working on how that's going to become accessible for our deaf population. We're looking at all of the options that we have. I know there's some technology things that we can look at, like TTY and stuff like that. So that's definitely something we're looking at today. But both systems have to be accessible, and that's our goal.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Was there anything else, operator, or we're going to move into our next section?
We do have a few more questions in queue if you have the time. Okay.
Sure.
We'll go to Andrew Gardner.
Hi. Yes, my question was, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. My question was, if your recipient, I'm a recipient. If your provider, for example, doesn't get to doing the EVV that day that they work, can it be done like the end? And I believe you answered the question earlier, but I just want a clarification.
Okay. So it does not have to be, EVV does not have to be done on the day. The provider can complete their information at whatever schedule works best for them within that pay period. So they can do it daily, weekly, at the end of the pay period, whatever is going to work the best for them.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Of course.
And then we have a question from Carol Moss. Ms. Moss, are you on mute?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. I have a couple of questions, I guess, and this has to do with your pilot projects. Are you going to be including like small counties that are rural as opposed to big cities in that project so that you can iron out any problems when they come out? That's one. The other one is, along with that, are you going to do communities that may have a large portion of people who are non-English speaking?
So we're going to talk about our pilot strategy next. So I'm kind of going to defer your questions until we have that conversation and then come back to them at the end of that, if that's okay.
Okay, and I have one more question. Mm-hmm. That is, when people call in or get on the computer and do their time, if they have multiple clients, are they going to be able to do it in one sitting, or do they have to not log out but go back, start at the beginning for each client they have, or can they just continue from one to the other without a lot of disruption?
So similar to today, there is a separate timesheet for each recipient that they work for. However, they don't have to log in and out of the portal. They can just log into the portal one time, and then they select the timesheet in the portal for each of their recipients that they work for.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
No further questions from the phone at this time.
Okay. The room's still good? Okay. So now we're going to talk about, I'm going to check and make sure I didn't skip anything I was supposed to talk about. I have a tendency to do that. Am I good? Okay, so we're going to talk about the pilot period. So we're looking at the pilot period being 6 months between July and December of this year. We really kind of looked at how to approach that so that we could get as much feedback as we could from the pilots about what the previous caller was talking about, ensuring that we're seeing how it impacts people who speak different languages, how it impacts people in different kinds of situations, and how we could make that work the best. And make sure that we had really good support and resources for that pilot period. So we had some conversations, and I'm going to say this, other than pilot, we haven't at this point determined what any of our other groups are going to look like as far as which counties are going to go in what group. Okay, so that's still to come, and those are going to be conversations again with our counties and our public authorities, our unions, people who have to support those activities. But for pilot, we have made a decision and have worked with the county that has offered to do this with us, and that is LA County. And while it seems like LA is a huge, giant county to think of doing a pilot, we're not doing pilot as a big bang. We're not bringing everybody up the first day. We're going to be doing that with LA over a 6-month period. It's kind of a mini rollout. So we'll be breaking LA up into pieces in how we roll them out and working with them about the best approach to that. So we believe that in working with a single county, that it actually will allow us to really dedicate all of our support and resources for the pilot to that one county, and a county that has a lot of diversity. So a county that has recipients and providers that speak many languages and live in different types of areas, and that we can really learn a significant amount from that county while also being able to focus with a single group versus trying to spread our resources across, 5 to 10 individual counties. So we've talked with them. They're very excited about working with us on this. They have been doing a lot of outreach to really work with their recipients and providers about electronic timesheets and the portals. We will be continuing that with them over the next few months, and we'll be working with them and their public authority and their union and us to really design a strategy and an approach of how we're going to divide up the rollout that we believe can really support the recipients and providers in that county, as well as give us good information for the rollout of the remainder of the state. So that's what we're looking at for pilot. We will be then working on what the next counties will be after that. But we will approach them in a similar construct to what we talked about for the rollout waves, with the same types of mailings, the same types of support activities, webinars, webcasts, trainings in person, trainings in the county itself. And we'll see what seems to be the best in conjunction with them for how we kind of divide up that county for its rollout purposes. So that's the approach that we're looking at for the pilot. And again, happy to take questions about that. In the room first. Randy.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brandy Wolf. I'm the statewide policy director for SEIU Local 2015. We represent the IHSS providers in LA County. So I know that we probably have some of our members on the phone. We have been pretty transparent with CDSS in the various stakeholder meetings that our organization fundamentally remains opposed to the implementation of EVV. We are working at the federal level, but understand also that we are asking the legislature to permanently restore the 7% cut to IHSS this year, and any reduction in FMAP is the same dollars that we're asking for that restoration. So we have been pretty actively engaged throughout the stakeholder process and have a very vocal membership on EVV. So I think the request that we would make at the base level in this is to just to develop some sort of working group between the department, the county, and the union throughout this process to ensure that there is a consistent feedback loop on what is and is not working, especially in a county as diverse as Los Angeles. And then also at the earliest point possible to see the department's sort of implementation and rollout plan and what that means for the union. So I have said this previously, but oftentimes when there are big fundamental changes in the IHSS program, it falls to the union because that is where providers go and trust, but the funding is given to the state and to the counties, and no funding is given to the unions. It's expected that the unions do these in-person trainings and staff time is dedicated, and as the representative of these providers, that is part of our work, but is also not compensated whatsoever. And oftentimes in a train-the-trainer model, providers that are already making minimum wage are then being asked to go above and beyond and train their peers on how to do these types of big policy changes. So that's a huge issue for us, particularly in a time where the federal government is posing direct threats to home care workers and to their ability to be in a union. So I just wanted to make sure that I was flagging all of those things publicly, and for our providers that are listening on the line. When we hear pilot in LA, it seems big and daunting and scary. So we just want to make sure that we have the continuous feedback loop. So thanks.
Thanks, Brandy, and we really appreciate your comments, and we look very much forward to working closely with you all, as well as the public authorities and the county, to really come up with a strategy that will work. And I certainly do understand that LA can sound very daunting, but I also, that's why I wanted to really carefully say we're not looking at just bringing up LA, that we will do this in over a 6-month period and slowly and in a way that makes sense and that we talk to people about. So thank you for your work with us. I understand and certainly appreciate the EVV position that you all have had, but I very much appreciate that you've continued to work with the state, understanding that we don't want to lose our federal dollars, and so we look forward to working with you. Anyone else in the room? Okay, operator, we'll go to the phone.
Thank you. First, we have a question from David Alcast with IHSS.
Hi, good afternoon. I was just asking specifically about the pilot program from July through December of 2019. I know you guys said you guys would focus on Los Angeles County. Does that mean that other counties will not be affected until 2020 with that 6 month or 6 waves of 2 month rollout?
That's correct.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Sure.
We have a question from Paula Herman.
Hi, I live in the daunting area of LA County. That's me. Anyway, we don't have to go to trainings, correct?
You don't have to go anywhere for a training, no.
Because I was really offended after receiving IHSS for my daughter since 1976 to go to an orientation and sit there and learn how to fill out a timesheet. So I really, that really ruffled me. I mean, there's nothing I would have rather done, than sit there and learn how to fill out a timesheet. It wasted my day, and I had to pay somebody to watch my daughter. Because when we go to trainings, they also need to realize that if somebody like me who does 24/7, we have to bring our recipient with us. We don't just go park them out in this car, or, they're not allowed in the building, and, they're going to get noisy. And so when you do these trainings, just be aware of inclusion, okay?
Totally understand, Paula, and we're not requiring anyone to go anywhere for a training.
Right.
You can, in fact, now, as you were talking about, if you want to try the portal out, enroll in it, besides being able to fill out your timesheets in the portal already has some other available tools in it. It has the ability to submit a sick claim. It has the ability to see the status of your payment and your timesheet, so that you can, even if you don't use electronic timesheets at all, you can still get that information in the portal now today once you enroll into the portal. And you can do that just yourself online. If you need assistance or have a question, you can call our help desk and they can help walk you through it. So you don't have to go anywhere.
A couple of other things. Your help desk is sorely lacking in help. They put you on hold for an hour. These are the complaints I've heard. They put you on hold for an hour, and then you get cut off. So that needs to be fixed. And then also the electronic timesheets. A lot of people really love it. They love to go on and take care of it every 2 weeks, and bingo bango, and they're done. The problem is, by about 9 o'clock in the morning, the whole thing's jammed and nobody can get on.
So going back to your help desk call, so I'm going to be really straightforward with you. Right now, last couple of months, we took 40,000 calls. Most of them were, what's the status of my timesheet? Where's my payment? And 90% of those were people calling more than once a day.
Great.
So having the ability for people to see that, to get that information themselves, either through the portal, which they have today, the ability to do that, or when we have the telephone option, they'll be able to get that same information via the telephone. So those calls should basically be going away because people will have that ability. So that should really, that in addition to that, we are adding a significant number more staff to the help desk as a part of EVV in order to provide that support. So we certainly
I can imagine
understand
that your phone's ringing off the hook. I really can. I can just picture it. The other thing is, my daughter's on advanced pay, so I don't have to go in and look and see. The advanced pay is like the best. So, the checks.
I'm glad you like it.
There it is. Everybody should be on advanced pay. So then, I fill out the timesheet, mail it in, and then I get the overtime check. Okay, so and then you guys send me a verification and information on everything, and you're sending so much paper that I've just fallen in love with all your paper. You know, I mean, you don't need to tell me every month that I mean, like just today, I got, you know, the thing that my direct deposit, here's how much it was, blah, blah. Well, don't I know that? I mean, believe me, you'd hear from me if I didn't have it. But I think that I don't need to go check and see because of the way that advance pay works. It's a dream. And I really think that workers should all give that option if somebody has 20 or more hours in those service categories. And I would really like the asterisks, you know, to be posted somewhere so that people question, why is that little star by that category? Because we used to have them, and they would question it, and that's what showed you that if you had more than 20 hours in the starred areas, then you could request, you know, the advance pay. Some counties to this day insist that it's, you know, it's grandfathered and we don't do that in this county, and they still don't offer it, and they should do it at the assessment. Just offer it. You know, your client or you receive over 20 hours. Would you rather have advance pay? It's much easier.
Well, thank you for that input on advance pay, and I'm glad it works for you.
You're welcome. I love it.
Okay. Is there anything else about EVV that you needed to ask us before we let someone else ask a question?
And I think you're really informative, and I want to thank you, because if I know what I'm doing and I ask a million questions, I have helped about 170 other people, and then I've got an answer for them. So, you know, I just want to make sure that I understand it, and I do now, and it's, you know, thank you, because it's pretty clear now.
Of course, and you know how to get a hold of us, Paula.
Or anything.
And you know how to get a hold of us, Paula, if there's anything that comes up and you need to
trust me, I do.
Yes, I know.
Have a great day.
Okay, you too. Thank you.
And next up, we have the line of Pauline Wong. Your line is open.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Pauline Wong. I want, can you make the EVV video changing online, like to join the IHSS program, send the provider enrollment the video, have a language to choice. We can anytime can watch again. Because we really busy, sometimes look at the patient is 24 hours. How to bring the people to go out? If online can watch it, easy for us.
Okay, so I think I got that, and I'm going to respond, and you tell me if I missed something. So firstly, the EVV tool, both the online and the phone, will be translated into our threshold languages, including Armenian and Chinese and Spanish. And then for the training piece, we will be posting webcasts about that, and we will translate those webcasts into those languages as well. That will be on our website that you can watch over and over again as you're talking about.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
And if you didn't hear that, that was Brandy from SEIU saying that the unions would also be posting those types of webcasts on their websites as well. And I know the counties similarly typically do the same.
And at this time, we have no further question by phone.
In the room? Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining us, and we look forward to continuing to work with you all as we move through this process.